Hi, it's Joy, and today we're watching Arcane, Season 2, Episode 1, Heavy as the Crown. Now, the first season was amazing, and then it ended on a pretty huge cliffhanger. Everything is up in the air and going to get worse, and I am stressed. But I'm really excited to see where this final, I'm pretty sure, season goes. A reminder that you can find the unedited version of this reaction on my Patreon 2 weeks in advance, the edited version 1 week in advance. Because this is the first episode, I'm doing the first 3 will be up. This is going up on Monday on YouTube, so when this is up on Monday on YouTube, the first 3 episodes will be up and edited on Patreon, the first 2 will be up edited on Patreon, and then YouTube will get the first one edited, and then it will be from then onwards. Very excited, very stressed. Let's go. So just how much destruction did this cause? Is that Jace is alive? Okay, it looks like she's alive too, good. Oh my goodness. Oh my god, is that Caitlyn's mum? Is he lighting up because he's healing? Oh god. This stuff is dangerous, you know that. When it's someone you love. It looked like Caitlyn's mum is dead and Jinx killed her. That is a lot to unpack. I'm sorry, Caitlyn. This art style and everything just to the core.
We nearly extended sovereignty to the creatures who did this.
I mean, it was one member. I mean, I know they can't know that. For all they know, every single person, I mean, as if everyone, but you know, it could be that a big group of people in Zorn were behind it, but it was just one person from Zorn. It wasn't everybody. Most people in Zorn probably abhor what she did because it was terrible.
We are at war. I thought it prudent to solicit the advice of such an experienced veteran.
You don't have to be at war right now. More violence answering violence does not work. Do you have to say that, like, given the events of the past year, this is a little uncomfortable to watch? Like, genuinely a little bit, like,
what is she doing here?
Close to home. People of Zorn are not responsible for what Powder did. Jinx, I apologise. Yes, exactly. It's not Zorn, it's Jinx.
A firm reprimand?
We use a division against them. Pin the attack on Jinx. Post a reward too
substantial to reveal. Like, I mean, obviously, like, I have very complicated feelings for Jinx. I don't currently like her very much, but I love her as a character, and I feel kind of for the journey she's been on, especially, like, she didn't really stand a chance of becoming a person who was not incredibly messed up, but I don't agree with any of her choices recently. But realistically, what you do is you say this dastardly act of terrorism was committed by Jinx. And like you said, put out a reward so people will potentially turn her in. But like, you don't blame an entire people for something they had nothing to do with.
Jinx has proven elusive. Our healing can only begin once she's been brought to justice.
Sure, but attacking an entire city because of one woman.
Then it's settled.
How wise.
I have a very sick feeling in my stomach watching this. The people of Zorn are not responsible for Jinx's actions.
But I draw the line at Hextech. We have an ethos. Such force must be a final resort.
Agreed.
Like, are they gonna invade and look for Jinx? And leave everybody else alone? Just look for Jinx? Because that's still not super great with using the word invade, but that's one thing. Or are they gonna invade and like take out their punishment on everybody?
I had the shot.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault, Caitlin. It's not your fault, Vi. That's why she's still here. Can they survive what's happened?
Okay. I'm going with them. Please, I have to help.
You shouldn't have to hunt your own sister down. Is she recruiting her?
As one of us.
Fuck.
Kate, I can't work.
I watched them kill my parents. Do you have any idea how that feels?
Yes, I do.
You do, but if in 10, 20 years Jinx is out there and now working on the good side, and they're like, I need you to wear this pin that's gonna, you need to join Jinx and her forces to do the right thing, would you be able to do that? Or would you be like, that is a step I can't take because Jinx killed my mom? Like, you know how it feels to watch your parents be murdered, but had joining the organization that did that when all Vi's parents wanted was, I mean, I 100% remember if they were like innocent bystanders and what happened, or if they were part of the revolution, but it was like just wanting to be treated equally and to have justice for themselves.
I thought you were on our side.
You didn't think at all.
I know, though, that Caitlin is not exactly thinking with her most logical brain right now. What's Jinx up to? No one is coming out of this unscathed.
He was right next to me. How does the explosion do that to him? And I just
Survivor's
walked out without a
guilt.
scratch.
You did what you thought was right at the time, and that's all you can do.
Is it all true? You went after Silco alone when the council wouldn't back you. Took on his whole gang.
Kate said all that.
She did.
She said, if every enforcer had a heart like yours, we could take on Noxus itself.
I mean, it is true that
And
good
then she threatened to
people
withdraw her family's funding. Anyhow,
who
I'm
aren't
glad you're joining
corrupt, who do believe in the right thing, are what you need in these organizations.
After
But
the
I also
sheriff
think
betrayed us.
just asking her to join after everything that happened with the
let's just say-
enforcers. That gonna talk around? Why do I feel like Jinx is gonna be under one of those things?
Our curiosity,
Oh dear.
compulsion to leave behind.
Yep, it's not good. Something is happening. Yep.
Awful, isn't it?
Fucking hell. At least they didn't shoot her yet. Oh god. And they're striking first, but again, it's still a minority of the people from Zorn. Just that there are bad people who live in Piltover. So has Jinx like taken over and unified them, or is this a group that's just acting by themselves, using Shimmer? Oh god. You two love their teamwork. It's better than nothing. I mean, it was worth a try. You made them say ow. Fuck. Okay, at least it wasn't like all the way through. Was Vi going to get their Hex Gauntlets? Yep. Or that, yep. Oh dear. Teamwork. Is that this attack over? It is a dark time.
A memorial?
Yeah.
What kind of animals?
You need to find a way to call off the invasion.
What?
You
This
do.
battle was on your soil.
She dies and leaves this giant hole, and I'm just supposed to fill it. Like she was never there to begin with.
No, you carry her with you, all the best
You
bits of
won't.
her every day.
The hole gets smaller, but you never fill it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all coming apart.
That is the most true thing anyone said all episode, but
We won't let it.
I mean, it is coming apart, but we will do everything we can to stop it.
Does anyone still doubt that our enemy is greater than one deranged individual?
Okay, yeah, it's a group of deranged
So
individuals.
many of these.
If we do not defend ourselves with Hextech, our principles will mean nothing.
Your principles will mean nothing if you betray those
We aren't prepared
principles.
for a full- I am a decorated officer, leader of House Kiraman. Address me with respect, or keep your mouth
Go,
shut.
Caitlin.
I will lead a strike team into Zorn with 3 objectives. Locate Jinx,
I mean, it's better than an invasion.
dismantle Shimmer, and neutralize any agents still loyal to Silco.
What makes you think?
So that was an
they
attack
let
by
you
Silco
out
people, not
first
so much
today?
Jinx. Probably, unless Jinx has taken over.
A few surprises of her own.
Hextech. Whoa. Who was that? Someone we know? Like, was that Silco or the Singe dude or whatever? Arcane is back with a bang. This was a fantastic episode. I think they did such a brilliant job, especially with the beginning sort of montage of showing the grief and devastation an attack like that leaves behind, both for the people who lost somebody, for the people who had kind of an illusion that they were safe, shattered, and for people like Vi who realized that someone they loved did the thing. And like, even though that was kind of already a complex situation as it was, still not easy to cope with. I think they did a really brilliant job of conveying how that feels and how it can change you. Now, I was incredibly uncomfortable, and I will always be, around the thing of we should stop treating Zorn like its people deserve rights and we should just go and invade them because somebody or a group of people from there hurt us, because that is not good, and that is how people in our real world are acting and causing genocides and untold devastation. And I don't talk about that on my channel. On my Twitter, not that I've been on Twitter recently, I retweet things, I share things. I am much more vocal there about my opinion on things like that, because I don't, like, the world is dark enough, and I kind of think if you're able to escape for a little bit talking about TV shows, that's sort of good for mental health. But just, I do need to say that when they were talking about that and being like, okay, so maybe it was one person from Zorn, but we need to invade Zorn and they don't deserve any rights, they're all monsters, it didn't sit very well with me. But a big chunk of why it didn't sit well with me is because I know that's exactly how people do act. It was very realistic, and it made me like the, oh, my brain fog, the nice councilwoman who's dangerous. It made me like her more because she didn't stick to that. Now, I'd still agree that there is a huge ethical quandary when it comes to Hextech, especially in weaponry. It was sort of inevitable when they started making the technology. And at this point, them using Hextech when they go to Zorn, as long as they only use it against people using similar tech, as long as they only use it against the people like the ones they were fighting today, that is okay. It's if they're like, oh, we need to go and, you know, there's some citizens protesting over there, we should go use our Hextech against them. Like, that's not good. Or even if it's just, oh, there's a low-life criminal gang over there that they're using clubs, let's go use our Hextech. That's not good. But going up against whoever it was today, remnants of Silco's forces, yes. But whether Jinx is a part of that or Jinx is just doing her own thing, we don't know at this point. Against them, yes, it does make sense because they are using that tech against you, essentially, or similar tech. So you're going to need to, if you go with just normal weapons, you're going to be undermatched and overwhelmed. I do much prefer the concept of a strike team, a strike force, who aren't going to cause systemic change and damage to Zorn, I hope, but just targeting in on the problem areas, on the culprits responsible for the atrocities, not the innocent people who just happen to live near them, and also the harmful shimmer that is causing so many of these problems as well. You know, focusing in on Jinx, Silco's remnants of Silco's gang, and the shimmer supply, that makes sense. They aren't necessarily in a place, like, if things had progressed differently, if Zorn had been given a chance to have true independence and recognition and had been able to be given more of a government of its own and rights and things, then I would be like, you should trust them to root out the problems, ask for any help if they need it, and we could work together in that way. But we never got to that point, thanks to Jinx. Although, admittedly, the deal was that she'd have to be turned over, so I don't know why she was ever going to be okay with that, and whether or not Silco would have done it. As things stand, it does make sense, as long as you don't lose your compassion and morality, and you definitely can, when you were the victim of a terrible tragedy, lose your compassion and lose what made you you. So I am glad that ultimately Caitlyn was like, listen to Vi, and was like, listen to Vi in the sense of like, we can't just go invading willy-nilly because we will be destroyed, but also an invasion isn't the right answer right now, because it isn't, and it would just lead to collateral damage and people being hurt. Now the danger is, the last time they went into Zorn with Hex Tech, or I don't know if it was the last time, was the whole incident where Jace accidentally killed the innocent bystander child. Like, there is still a huge danger of that does very much concern me. But ethically, a strike team going in to try and root out the problem makes much more sense than a full-blown invasion of a city that has done nothing wrong, but just has some bad people in it. So yeah, made me uncomfy because it was very close to home and true. And then obviously we didn't see Jinx, we don't know what she is up to currently. But seeing the fallout of it all, seeing how it affected every character, from stoic council members to Caitlyn to Vi, and I like that. I mean, as much as I don't like it because it wasn't great, the way Vi was kind of like, you should be an enforcer, and no, sorry, Caitlyn was like, you should be an enforcer, and Vi was like, they killed my parents, what the fuck? Because that is just 100% like how those characters would act, because Caitlyn has learned and has seen through the like double-crossing corrupt enforcer last season that all enforcers aren't good, but she still believes in them and believes in the concept because that's what she's grown up doing. To Vi, the enforcers are the people that she watched murder her parents. She's not going to have a very, like, just casually, hey, you should join them, was never going to work. And so I like that they both kind of had that disagreement, but then were also able to make peace as well, because that is encouraging for the strength of their relationship, because they come from two entirely different worlds, and the things they are facing are almost designed to push them further apart and to cause more struggles in the relationship. It would be easy for Caitlyn in her grief to blame Vi, to be like, oh, you let this happen to your sister, you could have stopped your sister sooner, or you could have been a better big sister, or you could have done whatever, and it's your fault this happened. Instead, Caitlyn's blame was very internal. I didn't shoot Jinx. But then that could also turn into her being like, I didn't shoot Jinx because I thought it would upset Vi, so therefore I have to push Vi away because she's not good for me. Like, there are lots of ways, things that could happen between them. Vi could think, oh, it was my sister that killed her mum, I'm not good enough for her, I need to break away from her. So I'm really glad that even though they still had the disagreements, even though there still will be these problems that they will face, so far at least they are pulling together and they are being there for each other and they are taking strength from each other. That gives me such hope for their relationship even in these awful times. And ultimately Vi becoming an enforcer, I don't think is like how it happened, I think makes sense. Because for one thing, talking to an enforcer who was really excited about the idea of having her there, wasn't like, oh my god, you're from Zorn, you can't be an enforcer. She was like, oh my god, when I heard about how awesome you are, that's amazing, we need good people like you, you are restoring my faith in the enforcers. Like, that is kind of a really nice way to look at somebody like Vi joining it, because, you know, in the real world, ACAB is very true, and I think we need to systemically restructure and defund and restructure and reorganize everything, because they are systems rooted in awful racism and all sorts of terrible things like that. Again, not getting too deep into that right now in this reaction about Arcane, but in the meantime, having somebody there who is actually a good person, trying to do the right thing, who will call out the bad things when they see them, is so necessary and so important. And Vi, I do wonder how much of her is doing this just because then she can go with Caitlyn and they'll be together, and then she can look for Jinx and won't be forced to stay behind or do it on her own or whatever. But I do also think she's kind of realizing that yes, there are problems with being an enforcer, but she can personally do good while doing it. I mean, we'll see what happens. Then obviously the attack on the memorial was awful and devastating and just so callous and cruel. I mean, not that it would have been much better if they'd attacked somewhere else, but at the memorial. I'm now hoping in the second episode we find out what Jinx is up to. Was Jinx... I mean, I don't think Jinx was behind this, kind of because Jinx wasn't there. I feel like if Jinx had somehow taken over Silco's gang and had been like, hey, I just blew up the council, who's gonna follow me now? And then they were all like, yeah, sure, we will, or something. I don't know. I think she would have turned up at some point during the memorial to gloat, to laugh, to be Jinx at her most chaotic. So that would suggest that Silco's remnants are doing their own thing, and Jinx is doing her own thing too, but I would like to know where she is and what she's up to. I think it was very effective to focus on Piltover and on the repercussions of what happened with that the explosion that Jinx caused, but it's time now for me to figure out what's up with Jinx. So yeah, I loved this episode. I'm still stressed out where it's going to go because you know it's not going to be like, and then everyone has a picnic and sorts out their issues, but I'm so excited. Reminder that you can find the unedited version of this reaction on my Patreon 2 weeks in advance, the edited version 1 week in advance, and thank you so much for watching.